to the channel. My name is Rose and today we're reconciling my transactions for the month of August so I can officially close out the month and get it moving with everything that I have planned for September. But before I get into today's video, I want to thank everyone for helping me to reach my 100 subscriber goal. I sincerely appreciate all who took the time to watch my videos and to subscribe. So thank you for helping me to get there. If you're visiting me for the first time, I manage all my bills through AutoPay and I track my spendings virtually. We are paid semi-monthly on the 15th and the last day of the month. So I do two paycheck budgets, and I do my regular check-ins. All right, so in this video, like I said, I'll be reconciling my transactions for the month of August. So let's walk through my step-by-step process for closing out the month. All right, ready? Let's get started. All right, so the first thing that I do when I am closing out my month is to review all my bank transactions from my landing account, which is where our paychecks come into, then my expense account, which is where I distribute funds for certain expenses. So we have rent and utilities coming from one account, and then we have our debts coming from a separate expense account. That way it's easier for me to track. All right, so I scroll through all my transactions just to make sure that everything looks okay. I can identify all the transactions and I acknowledge all the transactions. So this step is basically on the lookout for any discrepancies or any unexpected charges on my account so I can readily dispute them if I believe that they are fraud. All right, so since I have all my bills on AutoPay, it usually is a smooth process for me. And then because I also do actual checking when I'm doing my week in review, and I use the actual amount spent. So it's easy for me when I'm doing my bank reconciliation. And you know, this is reconciling your bank account is a very critical step in the budgeting process. I remember, I think it was February or March of 2023 when I changed my security company, and lo and behold, I was still being charged. But I did not find out until about 6-7 months in that I was still being charged $15.60. So when I went back and I checked, I was wondering, what is this $15.60 for? Because my bill wasn't $15.60, but yet I was still being charged even after the cancellation. So I had to call the bank. They did a fraud dispute and all that good stuff, and they were able to send me back that money. So the moral of this story is, even though you are set up on AutoPay for the convenience, it's essential to reconcile your bank account, because it is in reviewing your statements that you will catch any errors, any fraudulent activities that could otherwise go unnoticed for months, as in my case. So this simple habit, it can save you from a lot of unnecessary losses, and also to ensure your finances stays on track. So let's get into my step 2. All right, so my step 2 is to review my expense trackers. So let me just switch over to my expense tracker right here. All right, so you're looking at my variable expense tracker that I use for the month of August. So I have the dates, I have what the money was spent on, and then I have my category column, the amount. And then here is just to do my calculation right here. All right, so I went through all of this when I was doing my check-in. So I'm just browsing over to make sure that it matches up with my bank account, and then to double check my totals here, which I did already. So for grocery for the month, I spent $635.29. Subscription was $17.97. And all right, so here you can see that this figure right here is the sum of these two grocery items right there. And that's what I did for all of these columns here. So for birthday, I spent $100. For prescription, it was a total of $168.40, and for fuel, it was $191.33. So the next expense tracking that I do is my consumer debt tracker. All right, so my consumer debt tracker, in total, I budgeted $616.74 for credit cards. For my Best Buy card, I budgeted $45. The payment came out on the 28th of August, and that was $42. So I need to update this Best Buy amount to $42. So normally with the Best Buy account, because the bill is due on the 28th and the statement is not generated until the following month, then I just use the minimum payment from the previous month when I'm doing the budget. And then I'll be able to adjust. If it's less, hopefully it's not more. All right, so total that was spent on credit cards for the month of August was $613.74. I double checked our payments and as well as my loan payments. All right, so once I complete my expense tracking review, it's time for me to go to step 3, which is to reconcile and also make the transfers to whichever account. If there's any money left over, I normally move it from my landing account or my expense account, because I prefer to have those accounts sitting at a zero before the paycheck hits again. So I have another account which I call my expense cushion account. So even if it's $1, I put it over there because it makes it easier for me to track when I'm doing my budgeting. Now it's time for me to go to my budget worksheet to see exactly what took place for the month of August. The month of August, the paycheck from July 31st covered all transactions between the 1st of August and the 15th, and then the paycheck from the 15th of August covers expenses from the 16th through the 29th. Okay, so there are a few adjustments that I need to do before I get into the review. And the first one is this bonus line item right here. So this $30 is a $30 that I received from Rakuten that I budgeted, but I did not use that $30 to pay the extra debt payment that I wanted it to pay. So I budgeted again in September. So for me not to be double counting, I'm going to remove it from August because it wasn't spent here. And I am going to make the adjustment. Okay, so that $30 was a part of the amount of money that I had in the expense cushion. Where is it? Expense cushion. So this $284.72, that $30 was included in there. So I need to take out the $30 from here. So it's going to be $254.72. Yes, $254.72. And then you can see that I did budget for it here in September, which I went ahead and made the payment. So it's going to be correctly accounted for in the month of September. All right, so the next line item that is supposed to be updated is the credit card. So 613, and I'm just going to swing over to the consumer debt tracker to make sure, yes, it's updated here when I made that adjustment to 613.74, 613.74. Okay. Internet. I budgeted $78 for internet, but the internet bill was $70.25. All right. So that's taken care of. Groceries and toiletries. This line item was overspent here, but it was covered with the expense cushion. And this was used, I believe it was the 24th of August that we went to the farmer's market and just spent that money. All right, so that's cleared up right here. And this is cleared up as well as the credit cards. So now I can go into reviewing my transactions for the month. Let's start with the income section. So combined income for the month $7,281.32. So for rollover, there was $105.69. For combined income, there was $7,281.32. No activity for, no, this is still not correct. I totally forgot to do this. All right, so a portion of this $4,125.25 was supposed to be in overtime, and I still haven't broken it out. I don't know why I keep procrastinating. There was no bonus because I removed that $30 and put it into September. Family contribution budgeted $659.40. Emergency fund transfer $1,500. So total income to spend was $9,546.41. For family contribution, I got more than what I budgeted for. That was $736.72. So that makes the actual income $9,623.73. Now, I am going to be, okay, so there's $1 here left over. Let me see why this available to budget is in the negative. That was corrected. Let me see. Credit cards. All right, so I am counting this Ashley Furniture payment twice. So let me take that out. Yeah, so $583.74. And now I can add this $30 here. $613.74. Yeah, $613.74. Okay. So let me go back to, no, yes, this is correct now. All right, so I can walk through because that figure is correct. That's exactly the amount that I had in my bank account. All right, so for rent was paid, okay. Rent was paid on the 1st of August for the full amount. And then on the 15th, I made a half payment for my September's rent. So that is why we have the $3,646.49 here. All right, so for water, we paid $323.70 for water. This $149 is the bill that's due on September 5th, but it was paid early, so I put it in the August budget. For car insurance, I did not make a payment for car insurance in August because the first payment on the split pay method would have been September 1st. For cell phone, $378.99. And this, it's not our usual cell phone bill, but there are some extra charges for some international costs. Moving along to internet, which I explained a bit earlier. I budgeted $78. We paid $70.25. So we were over budgeted by $7.75. All right, moving along to gas. $65.40 was paid for gas on the 28th, as well as electricity, $211 on the 28th as well. All right, so those came in on point, on target. For life insurance, I budgeted $25. That was paid. For pest control, I haven't scheduled a pest control service as yet. We are due for pest control in September. For lawn care, I budgeted $70 and I actually paid $75. So that put me over my budgeted amount by $5. For fuel, budgeted $200. We spent $191.33. For groceries and toiletries, which was explained earlier, budgeted $450. We spent $635.29. All right. Hopefully, I do not have to go to get anything that I'm out of. I'm pretty sure that I have everything. For medical copay, no activity there. For prescription, I budgeted $210.25 and we paid $168.40. All right. Okay. So the total for housing and general expense category, total budgeted amount was $5,736.15. We are over that by $132.00 because we spent $5,868.17, which I do not think is bad because we did grocery shopping, which we would have done in September, as well as it's not by much, but it still put us over. All right, so with us spending $5,868.17, that is 60.98% of our income that went into housing and general expense category. Okay, so let's move on to our savings and sinking funds. I did not do any activity here other than to set aside this $19 for pest control. This safety, the expense cushion, is what was used to cover our over expenditure in the housing and general expense category. All right, so let's move on to personal and discretionary. No activity here, so we can just go into our debt obligations. For debts, we paid for car number 1 $488.38, for car number 2 $461.88. For credit cards, I budgeted $617 and I paid $613.74. Personal loan number 1 and number 2 both came in on point for $1,240.74 for number 1 and $766.32 for number 2. All right, so in total we budgeted $3,574.32 for debt obligations, and we spent $3,571.06. That is under budget by $3.26. And in terms of what percentage of our paycheck went directly to debt obligation, that's going to be 37.11% of our paycheck went directly to debt obligations. All right, so for miscellaneous category, I budgeted $23.98 for subscriptions. I spent $17.97. One item for did not budget or unexpected expenses for $18.62. And that's the only amount. All right, so in total, we budgeted $23.98 for the miscellaneous category, and we ended up spending $36.59. Okay, so let me go back here, make sure that I covered everything. When I moved over the unspent funds from the landing account, my landing account, I think it was like $2 and change, and both expense accounts, there was $23.22 total that was moved over into my expense cushion account, so that those three accounts can be at a zero when the paycheck hit for August 31st. When I did my September budget, I'm just going to update this right here. When I did my September budget, I did mention that I'm using the base amount from our paychecks just to do the budgeting, because we did not get paid as yet. So I didn't move any money from the account so I can have it sitting at a zero, because I did my budget earlier than I normally would have. Okay, so that's my 4-step process to closing out my monthly budget. Step 1, I review all my banking transactions. Step 2, I review my expense tracker, and I do have a variable expense tracker as well as a consumer debt tracker to make sure that all charges that I have on my spreadsheet matches the charges in my bank account. And this is how I am ensuring that there are no fraudulent activities on my bank account. Step number 3 is to reconcile and transfer any account balances. So in my reconcile and transfer step, I update any expenses with the final numbers for the month, like I did with my internet charge, as well as my Best Buy card that was paid on the 28th. So I reconcile any differences to make sure that I am reporting the correct number. My step 4 is to review and to adjust. And in my review and adjusting step, I analyze my spending to see what percentage of my income is going towards housing and general expense, as well as for other categories. And in doing so, I try to see what I can cut for the following month. I try to see how best I can navigate the upcoming month, depending on what happened the previous month. So it gives me the information or the data that I need to make any prediction for the upcoming month, or to make any my strategies in place then for the upcoming month. So that is my step 4. All right, and that's it for my budget closing out for August 2024. By reviewing my bank statements, reconciling my expense accounts, my trackers, and updating my balances, I am able to stay on top of my budgeting and to keep my finances in check. All right, so I do hope that you found this budget closeout process helpful. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comment section, and I'll be sure to explain anything that you probably don't understand. And if you have any tips, you can leave it in the comment section as well. All right, so don't forget to like and subscribe for more budgeting content. And again, thank you to all my new subscribers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you're viewing for the first time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. All right, so until then, keep budgeting smart and spending wisely. Bye.